Hey, I'm Rachel.
Sasha here.
And we are the Grateful Gypsies. We realized recently that it's been 10 years, 10 whole years since we moved to China, and we still haven't moved home. So we thought it might be fun to make a video about all of our travel experiences in the last 10 years.
We're going to do our best to just share the highlights and kind of some reflections on the past decade.
Yep.
So we're going to start with March 2010 when we moved to Beijing, China.
We attempted to live in Nashville. It didn't work out. We ended up living in Murfreesboro. We got robbed twice. We had to get on food stamps in order to feed ourselves, and it was just a really miserable time in life. So we decided to cut our losses and try something completely different and bought one-way flights to China.
We actually didn't even have jobs or an apartment lined up when we got there.
No. But we got there and we hit the ground running and just started going to interviews immediately, and we were basically just freelance teachers. We took a lot of different short-term, part-time jobs in that first year in China. Eventually we were able to get our own place and actually save up a bit of money and get on our feet.
As far as travel goes that year, obviously moving to China is a travel experience in and of itself, but we did a lot of exploring Beijing. I took Rachel to all my favorite places there.
This is the last step in our Wang Fujiang night market journey. Scorpions, Xieza. What do you think? Alright. Tastes like crispy bacon.
Ow! It poked me.
We made a couple trips. We had to make visa runs. We traveled to Hong Kong and Seoul, South Korea, actually I think twice in that year.
Mm-hmm. We went twice. It's only an hour and a half flight from Beijing.
And that kind of started our celebration of the holidays abroad.
Introducing the one, the only, the legendary Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Oh yeah! Bowie, you see? Macho Man has just come to Beijing, yeah!
That's pretty freaky, man.
Yeah, you see, Bowie, I am the creamer, yeah. And the creamer always rises to the top, yeah. I can't sing and I can't dance, but I can make romance, yeah. Step into a Slim Jim, oh yeah!
Between Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and New Year's as well. And this is where we found out about SantaCon, which is a giant party. You may have heard of it, but in Beijing it's pretty fun. It's a bunch of people dressing like Santa, going caroling, just bringing basically a big pub crawl across the city.
And then at the beginning of 2011, we had actually managed to save enough money and get comfortable enough that we took our first month-long backpacking trip to Thailand and Laos.
Yeah, this trip was a total game changer. We had both traveled, but we had never really gone backpacking before. So this was just a whole new experience for both of us. We completely fell in love with the backpacking lifestyle. From the full moon party in Koh Phangan to in the tubing in Vang Vieng, we just had an absolute blast.
We did have an absolute blast, but we also made all the mistakes, but it gave us motivation to keep going and get better at travel. I think it's safe to say that that's the trip that really gave us the travel bug.
Yes, when we got back to Beijing after that trip, we were really focused on having travel experiences as often as we could for as long as we could.
Yep.
So after that big backpacking trip, we pretty much just settled into our life in Beijing and really focused on work. We actually decided that we didn't want to balance all these part-time jobs and tourist visas, and we decided to go for a more serious job and get work visas.
Yep, so we actually got these jobs, went through the application process, and then we went back to America for the first time since we had moved to China. And we spent 6 weeks in the States. We went to a couple of music festivals.
Camp Bisco exclusive vision here. Camp Bisco 10.
And got to spend spend lots of time with our families, and went to a couple other cities in the States like Denver to visit some friends that we hadn't seen for a long time, and this also gave us a chance to get our work visas for our new jobs.
Yeah, and then we traveled back to China, and we actually visited a couple places as a friend joined us to live with us in Beijing. We decided to show him around. So we went to Qingdao for the beer festival, which is a riot. It's tons of fun. Took our first trip south to Yunnan province in China, which will come up again later. It actually has an important part of our last decade, right?
Yep. And then we settled into life in Beijing, and we spent all of the holidays at the end of the year in Beijing, Thanksgiving, well, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, because by this point we actually had a really solid group of friends in Beijing that we enjoyed spending the holidays with. So Beijing really did feel like home.
Yeah, we really didn't get that homesick. I mean, we had a great crew, like Rachel said, and the holidays were a blast. We had so much fun, from SantaCon, to Christmas gatherings, to New Year's Eve raves in Beijing basement clubs. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how we wound down that year. And then we started off 2012 by actually going all the way to Mexico, which seems a bit odd, but we really wanted to go to a music festival on the beach there called 9 Holidays. That's why we made the trip.
Yep.
We were talking about how stupid it is to mix tequila with red wine. So there's a new drink combination called El Stupido, when you mix tequila with red wine. And, well, I guess I'm pretty stupid, because I'm going to try it.
And chug your red wine. And then chug your red wine. The whole glass.
Chug, 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 chug.
El Stupido!
El Stupido!
So we traveled a bit around Mexico, and then we went back to China.
So after we got back from Mexico, we had to go back to work, but we still focused a lot on travel in 2012.
Yeah, 2012 was a huge year of travel for us. The first big trip we took after Mexico was to Japan. One of our favorite American bands, Lotus, was doing a little tour around Japan. So that was the purpose of our visit to Japan, and we spent 5 days between Tokyo and Hakone.
Yeah, there's just a few people here. Hey T-Girl, thoughts so far?
So many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great trip. Definitely need to make it back to Japan and spend more time
Japan
there.
is beautiful. 5 days is not nearly enough
Definitely
time.
not enough. But that's what we were limited to with our jobs.
I'm soaking in red wine.
We had a lot of short Chinese holidays that we took advantage of, and took the high-speed train to different places in China.
Tell us how much you love Chinese train stations, Rachel.
Let me count the ways.
Where is it on your list of things you love?
Probably just slightly above being in a Chinese hospital, which is
Slightly-
my personal hell on.
Slightly above diarrhea, slightly below food poisoning, somewhere in the middle there?
Yeah, something like that.
You know how classy we are on the overnight trains. Rolling classy with our wine and cheese problems here.
We saw the Terracotta Warriors in Xi'an. We saw the Buddhist grottos in Luoyang, a lot of these side trips like that. And then in the summer, we went back to the US for 2 weeks.
Only for 2 weeks, which when you live on the other side of the world, 2 weeks is definitely not enough time to go home. It was such a rushed trip to see both of our families and fit in some Fish concerts and see our friends.
Yeah, so we realized like maybe this corporate lifestyle wasn't really for us with the limited vacation time and all that. We started to kind of think about how we could, travel more. And we took advantage of our contract break, at least, in between years.
We went to Sichuan, which is a province in southern China. It's famous for very spicy food and pandas. So we spent 2 weeks traveling around Sichuan province, and I would say the highlight for me was Jiuzhaigou National Park, because we got to do an eco tour where we did a 3-day, 2-night trek, and we went all the way up to the top of a sacred Tibetan mountain that was 4,000 meters tall.
Just drink it.
Beijing 二锅头.
二锅头
Oh.
the best. 最好的.
At least it's warm you up from inside.
That was awesome. That was a really cool experience. Really enjoyed that trip. And it wasn't too long before the next trip, thanks to the Chinese National Day. We had another week and a half off, and we traveled down to Bali to visit a friend who was studying Indonesian there, and just absolutely fell in love with the place. Really did not want to leave. I mean, who wants to leave their vacation ever? But we really said, let's make travel a priority. Let's go on a big trip. Forget the job, forget the apartment, forget the nice lifestyle. We really started to focus on planning an epic trip.
Yep. So after that life-changing trip to Bali, we got back to China and really actually made a budget so that we could save up money in order to actually leave our jobs and just travel.
And we actually even picked up extra jobs. We really focused on working and saving money. But of course we didn't stop traveling. A few months later we had another holiday with Chinese New Year, and we traveled to the Philippines with some friends and my brother and had an awesome trip.
I'm obviously ready to rage with my awesome mustache.
Your mustache is stupid.
Mustache is awesome.
Mustache is stupid.
Mustache is awesome.
You look
Glad there's a
like-
consensus.
You look like a 45-year-old man. That's why someone offered you Cialis today.
Yes, someone did offer me Cialis today. It's definitely noteworthy for the video log.
We visited Cebu and the island of Bohol, where we rode motorbikes, saw the chocolate hills, went snorkeling.
Got to play with tarsiers.
Tarsier, I'm not
however
sure.
you say it.
But yeah, that was a great time, and we have a lot of fun traveling with friends and family, and always trying to do that whenever possible.
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, pump switch.
After our trip to the Philippines, we were back in Beijing, and we were really working hard preparing for our gap year, but we still took advantage of Chinese holidays, and we went to Harbin, which is up in the north of China. It gets really cold in the winter. They have a snow and ice festival, and we also went to daunting, which has a Buddhist grotto with lots of amazing Buddhist statues.
And a temple in the side of a mountain, a hanging monastery. It's one of the coolest things we've ever seen, I think. Really awesome. Other than that, we were just working, saving. I was planning a lot for this gap year. We wanted to take a year off and travel. So that's kind of what we planned out.
Pouring some champagne into our singing
Well, can we go and sing first? This is cheers to 4 years.
Cheers to 4 years. Oh, it doesn't work when they have...
They don't sing when there's champagne in there. They're telling us to drink the champagne so they can sing again.
Right.
Cheers, please.
Cheers.
We left our apartment in Beijing. I think it was August 1st. We flew to San Francisco to begin our gap year. So why did we go back to our home country?
Because our home country is really big with a lot of really beautiful places, and I think going to new places in your home country totally counts as travel. So like Sasha said, we landed in San Francisco. We saw a couple of fish concerts in California. We went to Vegas, and then from Vegas we rented a car and did this really amazingly beautiful road trip across Arizona. We went to the Grand Canyon, and then we drove across southern Utah and went to Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon. Then we spent a couple of days in Moab, Utah, and got to go to Canyonlands and Arches National Parks and went skydiving over those national parks.
down to Denver, where we visited the Rockies, saw more Fish concerts. You might be noticing a trend here. You see a lot of Fish concerts. And then the rest of our time in the U.S. was spent visiting family and friends in our hometowns and traveling to a couple cities. On the East Coast, we did Philly, New York, and Boston.
4, 1, 2, 3 stretch around at the
We spent Halloween in Milwaukee with another one of our favorite bands, Unfreeze and McGee. And we flew back to Beijing, but we weren't moving back there.
Right, we had just left a lot of our stuff in our apartment there. So this trip back to Beijing was really just to say a final goodbye to our friends there and pack up the rest of our stuff. And then we moved it down to Kunming, Yunnan province that we had visited previously and decided that we liked it enough that we had to try living there.
Right, but we just moved our stuff there and stored it with a friend before the gap year.
Right.
Because from Kunming, you can actually get a visa for Vietnam, and you can take a bus, or I believe now there's even a train you can take to the border. So we got our visas, hopped on the bus, and crossed into Vietnam to begin the Southeast Asia portion of our trip.
What you doing right now?
Going to Vietnam.
Walking across the border.
We spent an entire month in Vietnam. We went coast to coast. We did a bunch of epic stuff. I'm going to say that the Easy Riders motorbike tour was probably the highlight.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. That was definitely really cool.
What? Hi, Bob. Yo!
What you doing today, Rachel Story?
Crossing borders.
Oh yeah, from where to where?
Vietnam to Cambodia.
From Vietnam, we went to Cambodia, and I think the highlight of Cambodia for me was seeing sunrise at Angkor Wat.
Yes, this is the hat that I wore for temple hopping. Surprised?
Yeah, that's an unforgettable experience. We spent a whole month there too, right?
Yes, we spent a whole month in Cambodia.
We tried to maximize our visas in most places.
What you got there?
A pineapple banana shake with rum in it.
Yeah, that's how you do it when you're balling on a budget. $1 fruit shakes mixed in with a $6 bottle of rum. And here's our spot. Don't go wrong. Nothing special. In fact, we have prison bars in the window. And we're right there behind the restaurants. Is it a Merry Christmas?
It's a very Merry Christmas.
All right. Nice one.
It's a communist party! Ain't no party like a communist party because the communist party don't stop!
You got that? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
Happy Cambodian New Year.
From Cambodia, we crossed into Laos, and we spent about three and a half weeks there. I think Laos was awesome, super underrated country.
Yeah.
So beautiful, people are so nice. And the highlight, I think, was we had my brother and some friends come meet us, as it was during Chinese New Year, and we all went in the tubing together.
How you feeling?
I feel like I just did in the tubing!
In the tubing? In the cold?
In the tubing. I'm not cold. You're
In
the
the Below Dark?
In the
tubing.
If you don't know about In the Tubing, definitely check it out. So much fun.
We have a blog post about
We
it.
do.
From Laos, we crossed into Thailand. I want to point out that we did all of this overland. We did not take a single flight for this portion of the trip. We spent a month in northern Thailand, and the highlight of this portion was doing the Mae Hong Son motorbike loop. We rented motorbikes and drove them in a big loop, stopping in some amazingly beautiful places along the way.
What you got there, Rachel Story?
An herb sausage.
And?
Beer Leo.
Street meat and street beer? Can't beat it.
And then from Bangkok, we flew to Myanmar. We got visas in Bangkok and flew to Myanmar, which was just an incredible experience. It's a country that's just so unlike its neighbors in so many ways. It's very unique. But I think the highlight was probably doing this trek. We did a 3-day trek, sleeping in villages. And then we also visited this Buddhist festival or fair. It was a huge party
Near
in
Sepang.
the middle of nowhere, and the guys from our hostel took us, and it was just an awesome local experience.
It was an amazing local
so much
experience.
fun.
Drink! It's a video!
after Myanmar, we flew back to Thailand, but this time we went south, and we spent a month traveling south through Thailand and going to several of the islands.
Yeah, we got scuba certified there in Koh Tao. That was definitely a highlight, something we've been meaning to do. We went from Thailand to Malaysia, and we only spent about 3 weeks there. We didn't visit too many places. I think a place we really enjoyed was Georgetown, a city in, is it Penang?
Penang.
Yeah, except for Rachel getting lit up by bed bugs.
Lit up.
Other than that, the food was great, the street art was really cool, and we would love to go back there and maybe stay in an Airbnb.
Yes. Highly recommend going. Just don't stay at any of the hostels
Right.
on Love Street or something like
Something
that.
I don't know. It's been a while. But then we went to Indonesia, and this time we went to Java first instead of straight to Bali.
And we spent 45 days traveling across Indonesia, all by land. Again, we did all of this by land. We started in Jakarta, the capital, and made our way across the island of Java, crossed over into Bali. Spent about 2.5 weeks in Bali, and then from there went over to the Gili Islands and Lombok.
Be careful with the sambal. It'll make your face vibrate and shake. Nose running, eyes watering. It's cheaper than mushrooms, I guess.
And I think the highlight for me was probably the Dieng Plateau.
Oh, that was cool.
I thought the Dieng Plateau was really beautiful, and it's so high in elevation that there's actually, like the grass frosts in the morning, which is crazy.
Yeah, so that whole time in Indonesia just further cemented our love for Indonesia. I took lessons to pick up some Indonesian language, and we just kind of started to think maybe we wanted to live there for a time, and this is important for what's coming up later in the video. But let's keep going with the gap year. It was summer at this point, and if you know us, you know we got to get to some
That
crunchy
means
music
it's time
festivals
for Fish Tour.
and fish concerts. So we went all the way back to the U.S.
Yep.
For just a couple weeks to sneak in some shows. I believe we hit a festival, visited some family, and then went back to China.
And this time, we didn't go straight back to our new home of Kunming. We spent about 3 weeks traveling with two of Sasha's brothers and one of their friends around southeast China. And we went to the Tulo villages in Fujian province, and we went to Xiamen and Guilin and Yangshuo, both really beautiful places.
Yeah, Yangshuo is probably one of our favorite places in China. It is awesome. And from there, we took the train to Kunming, and we were exhausted, we were broke. We were pretty beat. We were ready to settle down, if you will, and begin a new chapter of our journey there.
So Sasha had a lot of freelance writing work to do at this point, so he wasn't really looking for a job. I, on the other hand, had not yet figured out a way to work online, so I got to work finding a teaching job, and I did find one. The downside was that it was going to be 6 days a week, but the upside was that I didn't need to start for about 2.5 weeks. So we took the opportunity to finish the backpacking trip there that we had started in 2011, but had been cut short by our corporate jobs in Beijing.
Yeah, we finally got to pull that trip off. We went to Dali, we went to the Tiger Leaping Gorge, Lijiang, Shangri-La, lots of just stunningly beautiful places
Amazingly beautiful
in Yunnan province.
landscapes.
Highly recommend it. One of the main reasons we moved there, really.
It's so funny.
Why are you crying, T-girl?
Because it's so spicy. We were warned though. It's still delicious. Still not as spicy as papaya salad.
You're still crying, though.
I am still crying, yes, that's true.
So yeah, as Rachel said, she was working and her schedule was pretty intense, but I was just a freelancer on my tourist visa, so I had to leave every 90 days, which made me do some solo traveling. I went to Hong Kong and Macau on one trip. Another trip I went to Bangkok and studied Thai for a week and hung out there, visited a friend, and then we kind of started thinking about going home for the holidays because we never really do that, right?
Well, it had been several years since we spent the holidays at home, since before we had moved to China. So Fish announced that they were playing New Year's Eve in Miami.
Yeah.
So that was our motivator
And I had an idea, maybe not a good idea, but I had an idea. I wanted to go back to SantaCon in Beijing, so I decided I was going to dress up like Santa and ride the train all the way across China to Beijing to get to SantaCon, stopping in a couple cities along the way. I think it's the best video I've ever made, so I'll definitely link to that if you haven't seen a video of me dressed like Santa traveling across China. I recommend it. I went back to Detroit to do Christmas with my family. Rachel had a long, crazy trip to get home to do Christmas with her family. And then we met up in Miami for the Fish New Year's Eve concert, which was planned, but...
And Sasha completely caught me off guard and popped the question, got down on one knee and proposed right after the midnight countdown.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for Rachel. It was a little stressful for me, but I pulled it off. We had a great time in Miami, celebrating with friends and family and fish.
I thought that proposal was just the cherry on the top of several years of incredible experiences up to that point. And then I feel like 2015 was a changing point in a good way for us. We got engaged at New Year's, so we went back to Kunming and we started planning our wedding. And Sasha also applied for the Dharma Siswa program, which is a cultural immersion program done at lots of universities around Indonesia.
That's the program that our friend was in the first time we went to Bali, so it kind of came full circle.
Exactly.
I decided I might as well apply. Why not? And I was kind of waiting to see what happened. In the meantime, we were planning our wedding. We also got tickets for the Grateful Dead 50th anniversary Fare Thee Well celebration, which we called our Hippie Moon, as it was actually before the wedding, but we spent enough money on it for it to be a honeymoon.
We treated ourselves to a travel package.
Yeah. And then we got married on Cloud 9. Literally, that's the name of the place.
That's the name of the farm. That was a great weekend full of lots of fun and friends.
I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Alexander Savinov.
But at this point, I still had a job in Kunming.
So we got to see a couple fish concerts in the U.S.,
Yeah.
but unfortunately we missed the festival, which I'm still sad about. We had to get all the way back to China for Rachel to get back to work, and I had to get to Bali. So we got married, went back to China, and I left her there for another month as I had to go start my program, and you had to...
And I had to finish my contract in Kunming.
It's worth it to finish the contract because you always get a nice little bonus there.
Exactly.